So the goal from this one, guys, is not to overwhelm you with a ton of info. I've got a few different resources I can share around the theory, the logic, the concepts, all that sorts of stuff. And so going to go through at a bit of a different pace here, try and get through things relatively quickly, but we can start and stop and do some activities and things like that to make sure you guys are actually getting some work done and getting something out of this versus just tuning in and listening to someone harp on for an hour. So if there is any questions at any point, feel free to chuck them in the chat box, or likewise, feel free to unmute yourself and interrupt. I'm happy to answer questions, or we can save some for the end as well. Now, gonna jump in here real quickly. Who am I? And just want to cover this one off really quickly because not everyone is built the same. I know a lot of guys might have seen me previously. I spent 6 years coaching builders how to do marketing. Ultimately, everybody said, "Hey, this all sounds great, but I don't have the time to do it." And so this is how I ended up doing this gig here, which we basically do all marketing, full service for specifically for custom home builders and remodelers. And so very, very specific in everything that we'll be learning today and make sure that you guys can get stuff that's not going to be generic, but instead is going to work really effectively based off the numbers that we've got. Okay. Now, I put this one in here, which is a screenshot from a back-end database that we've got. And normally people jump in, they got a YouTube video, they say that they're awesome. But as of this morning, we've just cracked the 26,000 leads mark. Okay, so that is 26,000 leads across kitchens, bathrooms, home additions, home renos, and new builds. Okay, nothing else. And so we have a good process. We know what works. And, if you were to look closely enough, you can see that, there's approximately 10 or 15 that have already come through today for various people. So know what works, also know what doesn't work. And so again, if you guys want any data-backed insights, then can totally jump in and share any of those with you. So
Cam, you're right if I just jump in quickly, mate.
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, we had a ton of building exact users that have joined on as well. And I always say this at the start of any sort of webinar that we're a part of. Guys, there's so many different people that offer different services in there with, accountants, bookkeepers, marketing gurus, etc., etc. When I was at MYOB, one of the things that we were really trying to push bookkeepers to do is specialize in an industry and pick that, whether it's trades, whether it's retail, hospitality, etc., etc. And there's so many people out there. They all say we can do everything. And I just don't believe it for anything that they can do everything because there's just so much complexities in each individual industry. And construction is just outrageous, the amount of complexities compared to other industries. So we always try, when we're doing webinars, we try and push people out to our audience. We always try and put people in front that actually get the construction industry, because if you're doing retail hospitality, like all good, but the transaction value of those sort of businesses is nowhere near the businesses that you guys are running. So how someone helps you manage leads that does work for hospitality and retail and all these other industries where the lead value is only a few $100. Even though the lead value for us at Build Exact, like it's a small subscription revenue that comes in per customer versus $50,000, $100,000 and stuff. So there's a whole lot of complexities there. So if you are working with people, like I'm not telling you to stop, obviously, just make sure you're thinking about asking the right questions about it. And are they actually helping your specific business, or are they a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing? So I always try and raise that, because I think sometimes people you get so caught in doing what you're doing that sometimes the advice you're getting might not always be specific to your industry, and it's a completely different industry from everyone else. And I think with a lot of the government rules and stuff, I think you guys are the ones that get penalized the most out of it in terms of the customer relationship, the banks, etc. So I just want to jump in, Cam. Sorry, mate.
No, you're good. You're good. And I appreciate that as well. So, literally just got off a call with a guy who we were working with a couple of months back who said, "Hey, wanted to try someone local. He's a mate of mine. He's done marketing for a long time." I said, "Cool, man. No worries. Let us know how it goes, if there's any help we can give." And he gave me a call yesterday and said, "Yeah, so turns out, is very good at marketing across the general, public, but doesn't quite understand that the value of these projects are not what I'm looking for, and is giving me volume over quality and all that sort of stuff." So
Yeah.
there are a few nuances to it, which obviously we can cover off today. And I will drag this one back up here and share in a second, but just wanted to get a read of the room so that we can cover off everything that's relevant for you guys. Is if everyone can open up the chat, chuck in there where you're based, then we can kick this thing off. So I know we've already had a couple jump on. I'm in the sunny north of Auckland here. Hopefully going to get outside, go for a swim now that the pool heater is on. We've finished this frozen winter. Cool. New South Wales, Sydney, Tauranga, Central Coast, Perth, Brisbane, Hawke's Bay. Lots of Melbourneites. Hey, Melbourne's the place to be nowadays.
I was in Melbourne actually, flew down for the first time over the weekend, went to see Oasis. Anyone else go to see
Oh.
Oasis? Want to see Oasis? A fan of Oasis? I see Luke's got a bucket hat on there, so maybe.
Oh, good stuff. That's awesome. And I was back there for the Formula One as well not long ago. But yeah, good place to be. Perfect. Another one from Melbourne, Jervis Bay, Western Sydney, Sunshine Coast. Awesome. So next one, just to follow up on that, is really, really quickly, is type of work that you guys are primarily focused on. Is it kitchens, bathrooms, additions, new builds? Is it landscape? Like we had a few landscapers last time, designer build landscapers. So chuck that in there and same thing, can make sure that this is super tailored towards what you guys are looking for, because even down to what Julian was saying before in the construction industry being different from others, there's also so many different ways inside the construction industry that we can change the way that we approach our marketing. So we're working with a guy in Perth who does SIPs panels installs basically, and the marketing that we're doing for them is very different to the guys that we're doing home additions for in Melbourne already. So yeah, lots of different segments of the market. Looks like a good mix in here as well of new builds, custom, cool, remodeling, renos, extensions. Fantastic. Nice. Awesome. Okay, guys, fantastic. Thanks for that. So, like I said earlier on, if you guys have any other questions, anything else that comes up, feel free to chuck it into the box. Want to make sure we can get everything covered off. But let me share my screen again, because what we're going to do is we're going to break this down into a couple of smaller segments over the next couple of weeks, okay? And if I go to this one here, share my screen, this is what we're going to cover off today, okay? So essentially, this first session is all based on lead gen. And if I go forwards a couple and I'll skip back, there are three parts to this, okay? There is lead generation, getting the work coming through, which is arguably where everybody and their dog seems to be an expert at, right? I'm a Facebook ads guy, I'm a Google ads person, I'm a social media, expert. But that's really cool for getting the leads, which is only one part of the puzzle. And especially in the space that you're in, and you all know this, you get a lead come through today, they could be fantastic. But between plans, permits, pricing, and everything else that's involved, it might not fall into place for another 9 months or 18 months. Projects that have been floating around for 4 years for some people. So that's where there's a big focus on these other two aspects here of lead nurture and lead conversion, which we're going to cover off in subsequent weeks. Okay. So these two here are really, really important. We're going to cover off in depth in another session. This first one here is around lead generation. All right. How do we get more people through the door, basically? And there's that old analogy of, the most popular food place in your area. Every place has got one. There's one down in Queenstown here that does burgers, and Ferg Burger, I think it's called. And basically, any time from sort of 5 to 9 p.m., there's a line out the door and up the road, right? And from their perspective, if they've got a line of people waiting to work with them, they can put the prices up, they can, be the controller of demand. Whereas someone else who has nobody knocking on the door are going to end up taking on the wrong type of projects, the wrong type of clients, you know, picking up the work that they have to just to keep busy. And so we want to make sure that we first get a flood of people through the door so that we can screen them really hard and then find the ones who are going to be a great fit for us and then move the rest through the process. Okay. All make sense? Thumbs up. Fantastic. Right on. So let me just jump back here a couple of steps. So what we're going to cover off today is setting some goals, right? There's no point in doing some marketing when you're trying to get 1,000 leads a year versus 10 leads a year. The strategy is going to be wildly different. Okay. And so we'll get really clear on that today. The second one, identifying ideal clients. Now, everybody's talked about a customer avatar or ideal client, that sort of thing. I know people that have got a workbook for it and they take, all day to get this thing done. For every one of these things that's on the list here today, I've got an AI tool that will basically do it for you. You can just guide it through the process. So we could probably whip through this in 15 minutes if we're really quick about it. But there's no point in us having to spend a ton of time on these things when we've got the technology that can assist us with it. So we're going to do that for our ideal client, which means that the first thing, who are we targeting? Like, what is the work that we do and who is our perfect client? That then allows us to open up the rest of our marketing strategy or the rest of our marketing plan to focus on getting more of those people. Okay. Next one is crafting a message. Okay. Then we're going to look at choosing the right marketing channels and writing effective ad copy. And ultimately, then how do you get this stuff into play really quickly? So the goal from this, I know there's a couple of people in the car, so maybe don't try and do this. But the goal from this is the people who are sitting in front of the computer, theoretically, you should be able to jump on and do these things with us. And at the end of this session, maybe spend 5 more minutes and get to the point of click and go and have some leads coming through tomorrow, today, as this thing goes live. Okay, it really is that simple when we boil it down. Right. That said, this strategy won't necessarily last you forever. It's one that there's no barriers to get started, but just want to make sure that you get a result out of this today. Cool. Any questions so far? No? Yes? All good? Perfect. I'll keep going. So we've got all the resources put together, contractorscale.com/tools. Okay. This will take you through to a page which has got everything on it. And I've updated this just today with a couple of other bits and pieces. It'll look like this. This is going to have a few downloads. It's going to have the calculator. It's going to have a few things that the 8 AI tools that I mentioned that you can interact with. Okay. And this is going to be expanding going forward with a few other things that we work on over the coming weeks as we work on those bits and pieces. Okay. So bookmark this one. This is going to have everything you need. If you have any trouble with that, feel free to sing out. I will grab the link here just for simplicity's sake and copy that and chuck it into the chat because I'm such a nice guy. Perfect. Cool. So the 30,000 foot, we've already talked about this one here. We want to focus on the lead generation side of things. Now, just looking a level deeper on the sort of left-hand side there, we've got referral, we've got paid, we've got organic. And then at the top there, we've kind of got qualification, which falls in between lead generation and lead nurture. So if we take a look at the things that we can do here to generate leads, this is pretty much everything put into buckets, for lack of a better word. Right? Referrals, pretty straightforward. This is going to be from past clients, it's going to be architects, designers, different partnerships there, real estate agent networks, signage, that sort of stuff. There's a few things you can do there to amplify the referrals that you get, which is, you can get creative on. There's lots of different ways you can do this. But the two primary methods that are going to be right in front of you to get some results really, really quickly is going to be both paid and organic. Okay. Now, the main difference here is that organic is going to be something that's longer term, won't necessarily get you a ton of stuff right now, but is something that over time, if you just start doing it and just be consistent with it, it's like going to the gym, you'll end up getting stronger and stronger, or you'll end up getting more and more coming through from that channel, but it's not instant gratification. And that's where paid marketing works really, really well. It's like the crack of marketing, right? Once you start getting into it, you get a really good return from it. Maybe not so much as crack, but you can ultimately keep recycling this and keep this working, and you can actually have stuff coming through within a few hours, if not a day, sort of thing, of getting this started. So that's where we're going to get started in here first, focusing on a couple of those touch points there. But I just wanted to jump in a bit deeper as far as the sort of flow that people go through. So you've got the concept and how it sort of fits together. I guess this one here is more of a visual around how everything falls together, because if you're to look at any marketing, as far as if I grabbed a screenshot of our clients' results and their best leads over the last month or couple of months, you'll notice that quite often it's not just one area that gets all of the leads or all of the best people through. It's a combination of doing everything a little bit and tying it together. So it's this holistic marketing strategy, right? So not just a social media thing, it's not just a paid ads thing, it's not just an SEO thing. It's about having all of these work together to make it all work really effectively. Now, you can download this and save it and pin it on the wall as far as all the bits and pieces and how they flow through. But ultimately, we want them all to be talking together. So your organic results, when you fall on Google search, you want that to be coming through into one of your website pages, into your CRM, doing some of the cleanup and connection with people to get to them. Same thing as your social and Google ads and everything else. Now, probably doesn't make a ton of sense right now, but it will as we go on. And so just wanted to share this overall system with you to get things kicked off. Okay. This one here, I will skim over really briefly. This is what we call a customer awareness grid. Okay. Now, there are a couple of things along this table here. And I think the reason I put this one in here is because everybody's trying to find a unicorn. they do some marketing or they work with a marketing agency and they have these high expectations that I'm going to click go, do some marketing, and everybody that comes through my inbox is going to be a perfect fit and they're going to be ready to go right now. Okay. Now, if we take a look at the ratios of people who are out in the market right now, there is only somewhere between 2 and 5% of people who are actually ready to click go on their project. Okay. So you can get 100 leads come through. You might get 2 to 5 that are actually ready to click go and get started on their project. Now, subsequently, with everybody else trying to market to the same audience as the second one down, is what I'm talking about here. Everybody is also gunning for those people. And so the downside of that is you end up with a lot of people who are batting you off price wise against everybody else. Okay. And also with everybody going after these keywords or going after this market, it becomes very expensive because it works off what they call an auction system. So if 100 people are trying to target the same person, the prices go up. Okay. Now, where the arrow is up here, I always like to start the marketing off right at the top here. And this is with people who are going through that earlier phase, a little bit of research, okay, where there's about 25% of the market that sits here. So a much bigger audience of people that most people don't bother targeting, okay? Now, this is a really good place to target your audience because if you can get early involvement with them, they're going to work with you as long as you're good at what you do, they're going to work with you from the start and go through the whole process together versus coming to you with a set of plans, betting you off against a bunch of other guys and racing to the bottom on price. Okay, and nobody loves that, right? Hands up if you love competing on price. No, no hands. No. Okay. So what does that look like as far as the way that you approach it? Well, this is getting into people's heads in that research phase. So, for example, where do I start? How much does it cost to build? Can I build on my section? What's included in a custom home? Should I renovate or rebuild? How long does it take? Do I need to get my land first? All of these questions that are floating around people's heads. If you can get in front of them at that point, yes, it's going to be super lame from your perspective because they are not ready to click go. But if you can work with them in that process for a short period of time, then you'll almost guaranteed to get the project out the other end with very, very little competition. Okay. All make sense on that? Cool. Fantastic. So in an ideal world, you just split your budget and say 25% of the budget goes on people who might be closer to ready now and spend the bulk or the majority of your budget on those people who are coming through in the future. And that's going to work out economically for you really, really well. Cool. So this one here, I'm going to skim past today and just talk about it more than anything else. On the /tools resource link that I gave you, you can download the spreadsheet and plug in any of your numbers that you've got there yourself. Anything in yellow is a variable that you can play around with. Basically, what you need to do is figure out where this arrow is pointing to, how many leads or how many inquiries do I need a month to hit the goals that I'm trying to hit. I can't tell you the amount of people that I speak with who are either referrals or they're doing some form of basic marketing, whatever they're doing. And the reason that they haven't hit their goals is purely volume, right? They don't have enough people coming in and month out to get them to the goal that they want to hit. So it's a combination of different things because if you increase the job size, you need fewer leads and so on and so forth. And that's why this calculator is here. But if you plug in your annual sales goal now and where you want to get to, your average contract size, right? So say, for example, going from 200 to 500, it'll tell you how many projects you need to complete, which is pretty straightforward. And then looking at your sales conversion rate, some of you are better than others. Okay, so you can plug that in as well. We see most people on average are around 5 to 10%, okay, from cold traffic. And if you're not at 80% on referrals, then there's something wrong. But that'll take you here to the range that most people fall into is between 10 and 20 leads a month is a sweet spot for most people that are between 2 to 5 million, thereabouts, okay? Obviously, go through the calculator yourself in your own time, but for the sake of keeping things simple, we want to make sure that you go through that. We can use this as a benchmark and we can carry on moving forward. Cool. Everybody got access to that tools resource there? Cool, fantastic. So if you click on that sheet, make sure that you click make a copy and then you'll be able to edit it. Otherwise, you'll be there scratching your head wondering why you can't edit my one. Okay, cool. All this making sense so far? Julian, any other thoughts, comments? All good?
Yeah, all good from my side, mate.
Cool. Fantastic. So last time we ran through a similar topic, we basically had this section at the end, and I just wanted to bring this one forward because pretty much most people have this question. There's so many things I can do, right? Cam's just told me that I need to do this holistic marketing strategy. Where do I actually start? Okay. Now, this is really, really based off of two things, is cash flow and pipeline. Okay. There is no point, for example, doing Google SEO or trying to rank your website on the first page of Google if you don't have much work ahead of you. And the main reason for that is it's a very slow process to get your website pushed higher and higher in the rankings, which means you may not get a lead for 6 months. Okay. When you get there and when your site's sitting in those positions, then it's going to be great and everything will be perfect in the future. But that's a strategy that you need for number three here. I'm booked well in advance and want it to stay that way, in which case you should focus on SEO, getting your site sitting further up in the results so that when people search for builder near me, home edition Sydney, home renovations Auckland, you're the person that shows up in that top three and you'll get clicks coming through quote unquote for free because you sit naturally in those positions, okay? So I just want you guys to chuck in the box here. Where are you currently at as far as pipeline? How much work have you got locked ahead, right? And could be in either months if you wanted to say that, or you could just say I'm in position one, two, or three. Okay. I have very little work ahead. I have some work ahead, but need to stack some more, or I'm booked well in advance. Let me just open up the chat. Cool. Let's jump in here.
In
Cool.
in general, Cam, what do you see? Is it people just doing a bit of everything? Is it people focusing on the wrong areas? What's generally the problems you see normally?
Yeah, honestly, I have a lot of conversations with people who have started some marketing and wondering why it's not working for two reasons. The first one is that they have someone who doesn't quite understand the industry and they're getting them 100 leads a month and the marketing person's, patting themselves on the back going, I'm awesome. And you guys are left there wondering, well, shit, why is none of this turning into money? Okay. I can't put likes in the bank and I can't put followers in the bank. And so that's typically the first one. And the reason for that is they're not really quality coming through, there's just volume. And then the second group of people is typically those who have done some form of marketing that hasn't been focused on getting leads now. And that's typically where they might start working with an SEO company, which is a great thing to do, but is more designed at investing in your future growth. Okay. What can I work on for 6 months to 9 months, then to start getting some return on to, make this whole thing work for me in the future? But then they kind of get the wobbles at month three, four, five, going, hey, I've done this marketing thing and I haven't seen anything come through, right? What does that all mean? Or same thing for social media. Building a brand, building a presence, posting on social media is not designed to get you leads. It's designed to build a following and a presence and everything. And so there's all these different ways that you can basically approach it. But those would be the two primary ones that I think most people fall into. Cool, cool, cool. Right. So it looks like the majority of people are sitting in position two, right? Have some work but need to stack some more ahead, which is fantastic. So really good position to be in. And I hate having the conversation with people that fall into bucket number one because pretty tricky to find unicorns who are, ready to go now sort of thing as far as leads. There are a few strategies for that. So social ads, typically you can launch very quickly, nothing required other than a Facebook page to get started. And you can run some ads very quickly and get some leads coming through. But the same way that we can launch quickly, these ads don't last forever. And so with the social ads, you can typically put a big billboard, for lack of a better word, out to everybody in the market that says, hey, are you looking to build and you haven't quite found the right person? Come and work with us. We're awesome. We'll solve A, B, and C. And you might find those few people who are on the fence or just looking for someone that you can connect with. But as you keep running that ad, it's not gonna become any more effective. It's gonna lose its effectiveness because you've basically already captured the people who are looking to make a decision. Okay. So that's why we call it a quick grab, the strategy behind it. But basically, option number two is running some different style of social ads, and we can talk about that a bit later on. But that's the first general place that we start with people is we launch this campaign day one. and get some stuff coming through because that just gives you confidence, gets you some quick wins on the board whilst we build out some of these other areas. Okay. So most people here saying position two or category number two, I have some work, need to stack some more ahead, which is fantastic. So the ideal situation for this one here is to focus on Google Ads or pay per click, right? Everybody know kind of what that looks like. If not, can kill my screen off and take a look. There are a few places that you can show up online. Okay. Everybody see my Google search here? Yeah, cool, fantastic. So when people are searching, okay, and it doesn't matter whether this is, going to be on Google search or it's going to be on ChatGPT, right? They both use the same concept. Somebody's searching for a solution, and the search engine, for lack of a better word, is trying to connect you with the right person based off of proximity, authority, and mentions across the web. Okay. So if we look at this one, it's the easiest one just to take a look at. We've got sponsored results. Google Ads, you can get on here in a couple of hours just by launching an ad. Really, really effective. Okay, there's just a few nuances here that we need to take a look at as far as how much do we spend on it and versus the return that we get and how do we make that more effective. Okay, and if we scroll down, we've then got organic results, people that have worked on SEO to get there. And then we've also got the map pack here as well. And so this map pack is generally the top 3 to 4 people who have the most reviews close to your area and match the type of work that you do. Okay. So to keep things simple, we're going to be chatting about the Google Ads portion here, the pay per click. Basically, you pay Google for every click that comes through to your page, and it's your job to turn as many of those clicks into contact details as possible. Right? All make sense on that? Fantastic. Right on. So go back into here, go to this one. Cool. So now looking a bit deeper as far as how these fit into that overall diagram that we put together before. You guys see the red square sort of in the middle there? Cool. So ignoring the left-hand side and sort of bottom and that sort of thing, your social ads fit right through the middle here. And what you basically do is you run an ad on social media. There's this diamond down here, which basically is a form on Facebook that they can fill out and send the details through to you. Now, pros and cons, very, very fast, low tech, quote unquote cheap to get the leads or cheap cost per lead that comes through. But the downside of this is that because it's so easy for people to click and fill out their details, a lot of people might tap the button, fill in a couple of things just out of curiosity, and then you try to give them a call and they say, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Or, people are going, oh, I'm just looking, or, that sort of thing, or they don't pick up the phone at all. And so when you do it this way, you need to make sure that you've got a really tight process around getting to them quickly. Okay. So lead comes through, does it ping you on your phone? You give them a call, that sort of thing. Or ideally qualify them throughout the process to at least know if they're worth calling. And then secondly, just understand that if you get 10 people, you're only really looking to connect with 2 or 3 of them. And that's totally fine. You can throw the other 7 in the bin. You don't need to speak with everyone. It's not a bad thing. Okay. Just don't expect that everybody coming through is going to be a good fit. Okay. Google Ads, right? Now, this one here is really good, most consistent, but most people find this challenging because of a couple of reasons. The first one is that you are paying to get people to your website or to a page, right? And then you need to get those people to give you contact details. So people are searching for what you do. So it's a really good intent, or people are actually looking for your service, which works fantastically. You can get really tight on the location targeting, the type of work, that kind of thing. Instead of someone looking for, a external renovation, right, or something like that, you can get really clear and go add on to house. And you can talk about or try to find people who are looking for home additions. So you can get really clear on the type of work coming through and just pay for those. But it does require a little bit of tech setup. And probably the most important thing here, which I put as a con, is requires landing pages to be built. Now, landing pages versus website. If you, I don't know how many people know the difference, I'll jump onto it really quickly. Easiest way to illustrate the main difference between a website and a landing page The website has lots of places you can click. You can click About Us, you can click the services, all that sort of thing. A landing page is really boring. It's got one goal, which is to capture your contact details of a lead coming through. And the difference is if you do it through a landing page, you can get more people to give you contact details, i.e., you spend $100 on or $1,000 on marketing. You want to get as many as people as possible to give you their details. Now, if we skim back here to this marketing budget exercise, probably missed it out on here in granularity, but basically the difference being most websites will convert 1 to 3%. Okay, so 100 people, 100 clicks come to your website, you'll get 1 to 3 leads, which is, in my mind, terrible. And I know being a small business, you need to make sure that every dollar counts. And so when we do it through landing pages, you can get on average 10 to 20% conversion rate, i.e., 1 out of every 10 clicks will give you their contact details. Now, what that means is that your money goes further. You can either spend less on your marketing or you can get more opportunities coming through for the same dollar. But without that one piece in play, it can be quite expensive. Okay, so the average cost per lead when doing it through to your website will be somewhere in the range of 250 to 350 bucks. Okay, which if you end up with a $600,000 contract, it doesn't matter and that's totally fine. But you just need to understand that that's the cost for pay to play. Whereas when you do it through a landing page, our average cost per lead over that 26,000 leads that I showed you earlier is around about 50 bucks. Okay. And so that's just by having a much more dialed in landing page. And that's kind of the key to that whole process. All make sense? Fantastic. Cool. So the last one here is organic or SEO. This one here is really something that, you know, that whole thing of when's the best time to plant a tree 10 years ago, when's the next best time now. SEO is basically the slow and boring process of building authority, doing content, and getting your site to show up on the front page of Google so that when you have people searching for you, you don't need to do the Google ads. You can basically just have them find you naturally. Now, we want to layer all of these together in a perfect world. If you were to click go and start on the perfect marketing plan right now, it's going to be day one, launch some social ads. Okay. That's going to mean that you're going to get some leads coming through within the next month. It starts to generate that sort of flywheel effect of getting people coming through, having conversations, meetings, pricing, all that sort of stuff. Then at the same time, we build out a landing page and do some of these Google ads. It's going to take a couple of weeks to do this because there's just a few bits and pieces involved. And this is going to work for you. Could be ongoing, could be forever because it's quite a ongoing process. There's always new people who are searching for what you do. And then the last thing that we want to start from the beginning is SEO. And that means that you need to have the right website set up, structured correctly, that sort of thing, and a bunch of other stuff, which is very techy. But layering them on top of each other means that you can get the best result over time. But basically, starting day one, starting today, is what we're going to do is get one of these social ads up and live. And we're going to pick up the speed now and use a couple of these tools. Okay. Cool. So let's go into here, ideal client profile. Now, I'm sure you've all seen this before. Customer profile, you know, some version of a document like this, which really doesn't mean anything. When you do your marketing, you need to know, or doing any kind of marketing in general, you need to know who am I? Who am I? Like, what does my company do? Okay. And the specifics about me. You also need to know who am I marketing to, and that's your ideal client profile or your avatar. Okay. And that's what we're going to do right now. And then you also need to know what the offer is that you're promoting to this audience. And there's a few other bits and pieces in and around that, but that's kind of the key pieces we need to know to make this thing happen. So it is a prerequisite to do this. And if we jump off, you know, don't do the boring, 5-hour research thing, I put together this tool, which we can run through now. If you go to that /tools, you can see it. It's on the page. And I've just put this one in here, which is a bit bigger so that you can see it and you can actually use it. The main thing we want to do here is chuck in your details around who the owner of the company is, right? Where do we obviously send this output, which is straightforward. What's the company name? Where are you located? So that we can do localized insights, okay? Because the ideal client for someone, for example, in the middle of Texas is going to be very different to someone in the middle of Melbourne, right? Type of work that you do. Now, this one here, we want to give as much detail as possible. If you type into here, home renovations or new builds, that's fine, right? But in a perfect world, you type as much detail in here around what you're looking for or the type of work that you do. Okay. My favorite thing to do is voice to text. So if I hold down the button here and go, we're based in the middle of Melbourne and we do home extensions and additions for doctors and lawyers and those type of people who have a nice place close to the water or the city central, and they like to be hands off and just get the job done and really focus on project management. Now, that's a good description. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes just now. If you go to contractorscale.com/tools, it'll open up a page like this. Scroll down to this ideal client profile generator and just fill in a couple of those basic details. Okay. And if anyone's done it before, I've also added in a different field here as well, is two of them really. The first one is what makes you different, okay? And what type of work you don't do, okay? So, for example, we don't do repairs or maintenance, or we don't do anything bathroom and kitchen related unless it's part of a main contract, okay? All that makes sense? Everybody got the link? Cool. If there's any questions, chuck them in the box or unmute yourself. Happy to do that. Otherwise, I can flick through a couple of examples of what this looks like once it's all done. But this is going to be the core piece that you need to do before you do any other marketing. Okay. And if you use ChatGPT or you do, want to do anything else in the future, you need all this information, which it's going to spit out.
While you're doing that, guys, as well, just to add to Cam's thing about ChatGPT, definitely get familiar with ChatGPT if you're not using it already. I use it all the time now just to help me rewrite things. I mean, we're doing a webinar in a few weeks on build exacts. So we've got an estimator coming in to do like a bit of a how she uses build exacts. So like loose training, loose just kind of how she creates efficiency. And I just word vomited the whole thing into ChatGPT to spit out like what exactly I was trying to say. Like I'm not good sometimes at being very articulate and to the point, which you need to be on a a marketing web page, which obviously a Zoom webinar is something to get you to fill in that you want to come along. And it's awesome for just kind of rewording what you're trying to say. And you could say, for me, sometimes if I'm trying to write an email to say my CEO, for example, I might say, hey, can you put this into a language that he wants to hear it in, which is obviously very, very concise, very sharp and to the point, versus something that's a little bit more salesy for different audiences. So that's really good as well. So don't just use ChatGPT to just kind of put one thing, who you're talking to and how you talk to them. Make sure you put that context in there as well. I'm sure Cam is way ahead of all of this stuff. I'm sure he agrees with that part.
No, 100%. And it, it's a topic that's ever evolving and there's so many things you can do. I think probably the main part of all of this stuff, and the reason you're doing this exercise first is because the most important thing when working with, when working with anyone, whether it's the apprentice or whether it's AI, is context, right? Hey man, can you go and make some brackets? Versus, hey, can you go and make some brackets? Don't worry about finishing them off nicely. They're going to be stuck in a wall cavity. Like two very different things. And so having context around what you're trying to do, what you're trying to say, all these other things is really important. We take this a step further in that when we work with people, the hardest thing to do is get the information back off them because you're busy, hey, how did that, conversation go with Jenny, that, custom home that came through last week? Oh, yeah, I'll send you over a summary later on. What we're actually doing is we record the calls that you have with the leads. We can extract a 10-minute phone call and get so many good insights out of that to both help you one click create a scope of work and all these things, which we'll talk about later. But also we can use it to refine our marketing. She says, "Oh, I have no idea where to get started." Perfect. We could put that in our ads tomorrow that says, "Don't know where to get started and looking for someone to help you through the process. Click here." Right. And probably haven't seen this one, Julian, but we just started
Yeah, I think
giving
you
out these
mentioned that
devices.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So chuck it on your necklace, wear it to site, and you can leave a site meeting and have a full breakdown of, your scope of work, your site meeting, and everything else that you can ping off to the client within 60 seconds. So pretty cool time to be alive.
Yeah, I mean, we do it for our meetings, internal guys as well. Like we have Teams and Zoom and stuff, and we use it. And sometimes it comes through to me, and I'm like, completely missed someone asking me that question, and I've completely forgotten it. So the amount of things that you don't pick up. So definitely, get familiar with using AI for voice recording and to process what words you're trying to say as well.
Just got to watch it when you start talking bad about the missus or something, right?
I never do that, mate. That never happens.
Cool, fantastic. So I think everybody, anyone need a few more minutes? Otherwise, just give us a hands up if you do need another minute or two. Otherwise, should be all good. We'll keep moving forward. What'll come through to your inbox is an example like this. And if you don't see it, just check your spam box. But you should get an email with something like this. Now, have a skim through it. It should be pretty close. Obviously, refine anything that you think doesn't make sense. But the general structure of this ideal client profile or customer avatar is extremely detailed for a few different reasons, right? So we're not just looking at working with people who are looking to build a house. We're working with people between, 25 to 45 years, 60% male, 40% female. Average income is this, their level of education, their core emotional drivers, all these other things. Okay. And we could tap through them here to get more detailed on them. Honestly, you probably don't even need to read it because it does a pretty good job of it. But what we're trying to do is really get inside their head so that we know who we're showing a message to. And now that we have this, we can be really effective in our marketing. So read it, don't read it, but make sure you got it in your inbox. That's kind of the first piece to the puzzle. Okay. Have I checked the legality of recording conversations? Yeah, 100%. So it changes per state and region and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to answer that question as a legal consultant. But for example, on the CRM side of things, there's a message that says, this call is recorded. You just need to announce that you are taking note of it. But there's some, what are they called? Arborists locally here, and they have a GoPro mounted to their head on a hard hat, and it's pretty obvious to say, hey, do you mind if I record this so that we can do a better job of our correspondence with you? And 99% of people are pretty cool with it. Unless you're in the US and you work with people in bunkers who are scared of the apocalypse, and then it might be trouble. But cool. So just checking you guys can still see my screen here on the USP, unique selling proposition. Cool. Fantastic. So this one here, we've already covered off, in that form that you've just filled out. And, there was some small prompts there as far as what makes you different. And this is probably the question that most people struggle with. How do I explain how I'm different? That type of thing. And, the prompts on that page are fixed price contracts, X amount of years warranty, in-house design, if so on five-star reviews, all these different things that make you unique. But I think most people struggle with that. So I've given you a few different examples here that you can use going forward, which really are just for robbing and deploying. Nothing really you need to action from here, but more for an exercise to go through and think about how you're better than the guy down the road. Okay. Now, most of them, when you're talking to a marketer doing any kind of marketing, you want to cover off these pain points: budget, timeline, communication, trustworthiness, quality of workmanship. So if you're running an ad, right, you might say something like, are you looking to build your dream house and heard the horror stories around budget blowouts, right? People are going to go, well, shit, yeah, I am worried about that. That's top of mind because these are the pain points that we're trying to overcome. So your marketing needs to provide a solution and how you're going to overcome that. Okay. So I'll give you some examples when we go through the ad copy process. But the main thing here I can't reiterate enough is don't talk about yourself, right? Go and do a Google search for anything, your competitors, anything, regardless of whether building related or not. Most people will say, we're the best. We've been in business this long. We, us. And at the end of the day, nobody cares about you. They care about themselves and their problems. So if you can tailor anything that you do towards them, you're going to be 100 times better off. And this is the difference between leads costing you $250 and $25. Okay. So instead of saying, home extension experts, we've been in business 25 years, we're amazing, third generation builder. You say, are you looking to do a home extension? Want to know how much it's going to cost? Get an instant online estimate in 60 seconds. Which one do you think someone's going to click on, right? The one that solves their problem. So when you do that, Google rewards you. You can get much cheaper leads and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to skim through these. You don't really need to read through these now, but these are things that you want to think about as far as what makes you different to others. And again, I've copy and pasted these onto the tools page, which you can reference for later. So there they are there. So if we stop and pause for a minute and just think, where are we actually at in the process? Apart from Cam talking for far too long, okay? The pain points again. Let me just go back, I can reshare them with you. I think they're on the page as well. If not, there's 5 points: budget, timeline, communication, trustworthiness, quality of workmanship, i.e., communication. Someone has an issue. Is my builder going to take my money and not, you know, communicate with me? Versus we'll give you daily updates from our site logs and builder trend, right? Problem, solution, right? So if we stop and think about where we're at now, we've obviously understand the process, hopefully, where it all fits, your starting point, where you're going to get into, and where you sort of fall into the right strategy to kick things off. We've got who we're trying to target, matched up with sort of what makes us different. The next thing we need to do is take that, which is the core fundamentals of your marketing, and put it somewhere. So the shortest and easiest thing to do is basically take that and run an ad from it. So we're going to do that right now, okay? Unless anybody's got any questions, now's the time to sort of answer those. Otherwise, this next portion is going to be only a few minutes because it's really, really straightforward. And again, there's another tool for it. Any questions anybody's got, chuck them in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself. Nicole's got a question for later on. I'm happy to answer that one. Cool. James, for those pain points, order of importance, pretty much. Let me share this one with you. What we've found is that this is generally the order of importance relating to what I told you before, budget, timeline, communication, all that sort of thing. This this screenshot here, or this example that I've got here, this has sort of got the solutions lined up with it. Okay, now from top to bottom, if you have a think about the conversations that you have with most leads that come through, almost 9 times out of 10, the first question they ask is, how much is it going to cost? How much do I need to budget for it? Or where am I going to start? Or that kind of thing. Okay, and now where am I going to start or how do I get started? It sort of falls into a process related question. They just don't understand planning, any of the stuff that goes into it. But generally, the most common thing that people ask is around price. Okay. And so that's where if you can combat that price, sort of question or concern with a solution, i.e., an online estimate, right? Or process related, hey, here's a checklist, an ultimate guide, a book we wrote on it, etc. Or comparisons, comparing materials, contractors, different builders, giving them a selections checklist. Like we're just trying to line up solutions to all of those things that they have, and generally it's in this order. Okay. So hopefully that answers your question. Cool. So what we want to do then is we want to go out and we want to create some ads, okay? And this next few things is going to be just a matter of copy and paste. I want you to all go back to that tools link, and we're going to use our next tool there, which is going to be our social ad copy generator. Now, what this is doing in the background, if I bring it up on my screen, is this is just an example of one that I've run previously. And if you wanted to copy and paste it word for word, it'll work for you, I guarantee. But that's not very creative. So feel free to rob and deploy. You're more than welcome. This on the left-hand side will generate a couple new versions of ads. And the reason why I put this note here, make sure that you've done the ICP tool first, is that we need to do that one so we know who we are and who we're targeting, because we've now got the information on you and who you're targeting. Writing this ad is now just a matter of what's the offer, okay? And I purely just needed these identifiers here to make sure that we had the right person. Now, your marketing offer is where you need to be, like the strongest offer is always going to win, okay? And there's an example of a company, I can't remember where they were based, somewhere in Oz, but just before COVID, they launched a hugely successful campaign. And that campaign was something along the lines of we'll finish your house in 6 months from start to finish, planning to hand it over keys. And, they were reasonably priced as well. And all of a sudden, they got booked out. They had a ton of people come through because it was a very attractive offer, the certainty of it all. Fast forward a few months, COVID hit, that all went out the door, they went tits up. And so very high reward offer was very attractive, but it was very risky as well in how that kind of panned out. No one would have expected that, but was a good example of a great offer. The same thing for any of those concerns you can tick off, right? Then you can get a bit closer to a good offer. So just looking at the examples that I've got here, I jump back to this one. just down the bottom here, if we think about, I'll zoom in on this ad and show you why it's effective, is tiny. So instead of just saying, get in, are you looking to build? Get in touch, we'll have a chat. Like it's not very attractive, is it? And so someone is online, whether they're searching for you or not, and they've got a problem that they have. Whereas they see, are you looking to build or renovate? We've got 13 design and build consultations, normally free, valued at 999. Okay. All of a sudden it stops them in their tracks and goes, oh, that actually sounds quite valuable. Now, we put these bullet points below for two reasons. One is for marketing purposes to show it's more elaborate than, just a conversation, but also to clarify that it's not a full-blown design consultation with an interior designer and all these sorts of things. It's all the stuff that you guys do on a daily basis anyway. You're giving out free advice that you're not charging people for. And, if you're going to do it for free, you might as well hype it up a bit to get more people through the door. So down here on this example here, the marketing offer, well, the one we've got here is a free 30-minute kitchen design consult where we map out your ideal layout and provide a preliminary budget or estimate. I mean, again, pretty straightforward. It's what most people would do when you're getting a kitchen done, but it sounds a lot better than, just saying we're going to give you a phone call. So I've given this a redundancy in the background because I know that most people are not going to do a good job of this as far as describing what the offer is. So feel free to fill this one out multiple times. If you've got an ebook, you can promote that. You can type that in there. I've got an ebook that talks about the 7 most common problems. Or I've got an online estimate tool that people can click on and get an estimate for their custom home in 60 seconds. Or I have no idea. I just want to talk to more people, and here's some of the stuff that we do when we speak to them. Type something into there for that one. Give it a couple of seconds in the background to load up, and then check your email for the result on that one. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. And again, feel free to unmute, chuck something in the comments, tell me if it's got any questions, because it's probably the most uncertain piece of this whole thing of crafting an offer. Very, very hard to do. And even for most people that are good at marketing, the offer is generally the piece that's most challenging. I will try and find this page that I had open, which shows you what it looks like in the background. What we're basically doing is we're taking, find this exact one, copy this, put it into a new doc. Remember earlier on I said the word context, okay? Context is really important when you're doing any kind of marketing. And so when you give me your 5-word answer around what you do and where you do it and things like that, in the background, I have this set of instructions on how to write effective ad copy, okay? So I've tried to make it as effective as possible with very minimal input, but it'll do a great job regardless generally. So there are a lot of instructions in the background on how it should do its job to give you some good ads. I have got one here somewhere, so let me find that one as an example. Has everyone chucked something in the box here? All good? Need a few more minutes? Cool, cool, cool. Does anyone want to share their screen and we can walk through the existing ad copy that's been generated? Otherwise, I can share this one and show you what it looks like on my end. Nope, all good. So let me share one really basic version here, which has done a terrible job of copy and paste. And I'll show you what you do with it. Can you guys see this Google Doc? Cool. So when we do online ads, we need to do a couple of things. We need to have a headline, we need to have a body copy or an ad copy, and that's kind of the simplest part of it, and the offer or the call to action, which is either going to be a button on Facebook or it's going to be a link to your website or whatever else. Now, let's just take a look at this, delete some of this stuff here and just take a look at this one. And in a perfect world, we space it out because people have terrible eyes, including myself. Always try to make it formatted so that it's really, really clear and a scan, not a big wall of text. Okay. Body copy. So you imagine this ad pops up on your Facebook page. The fastest way to lose 6 figures on a custom home. If you're looking to build, that's going to be a pretty stop you in your tracks statement, right? Now, what this is going to go on to say is explain a bit more about the process. So design first, price later. With architectural builds, small decisions compounded to costly overruns. We eliminate this guesswork up front. Our project feasibility and budget clarity session stress test your brief site conditions and wish list against current market pricing before the plans go too far. You'll leave with a clear cost range tied to design drivers, a risk register, timeline assumptions, and a recommended procurement path to protect your investment. This isn't a free quote. It's a strategic review led by a design and build team that builds what we price. For architectural homes from 1.2 mil above across Bayside and inner southeast Melbourne. So this is just one example that I got from putting the words custom home design and build into that box, which was again was a terrible offer. But do you think that somebody who's looking to build a high-end home would come through to that one, or do you think it would grab their attention? Probably, yeah. I'll just tell you it'll work well. Okay. Especially with these big statements here and that. So with the marketing, I send you three. Feel free to fill out that form multiple times. It'll generate another three every time that you do it. The goal from this is volume of ads. Okay. Even though we know what's going to work and what's going to resonate, we still don't, we want to test and measure and make sure that we have multiple hooks in the water to get more chances of getting the right people through. Okay. So as far as implementing this whole process, as long as you guys have got the ads there, you know kind of what you need to do. I'm sure you've got images of your work, which are going to tie together with it. All you need to do is open up your Facebook. Okay. And this is going to be the hardest part of the process. We've got an internal system here, which is opens up the ad manager directly. We can launch a campaign from scratch. You guys can see this one all right. I'll show you two ways to do it. Okay. And this is your homework essentially to get this thing live. We're going to do a lead generation campaign. There are a couple of things that you can do when you advertise. You can do a brand campaign or an awareness campaign. That's a no. We want to make money. You can do website traffic, which gets lots of clicks to your site. We don't want to do that either. And we can do sales, which is better for e-commerce, so don't worry about that one. We want to focus on lead generation and get people to fill out a form to give you their lead information. Okay. When we target people, we want to make it really, really simple. Set the budget at $25 a day, right? And if you wanted to, you could do it lifetime just so it doesn't run away on you. And our targeting is going to be really, really complex. You guys want to know the secret to this whole thing? Go on, check a one in the comments if you want to know the secret. Been doing this a long time. Cool. Look at that. Thank you for my engagement. I just needed some attention for 2 minutes. The way that you target your audience on Facebook used to be really complex. You would type in here as far as audiences, you would say, frequent travelers who were into, fishing and they did this and they did that. None of that is relevant anymore because what we're doing is we're calling them out in the ad copy. So the way that you target people is two things. Go back to your ideal client profile that we generated earlier, which says my target audience is between 35 and 55. So you say 35 and 55, or whatever it said there. Because obviously the demographic is going to be much different depending on locations and all these other things as well. And the other one that's really, really secret here is we go, what's my location that we're targeting? Okay. And we can say, for example, Sydney, and we can put a radius around it, which is going to be, where are you guys doing the work? Now, there are going to be people come through that are in shitty neighborhoods and things like that. Everyone's got them. But what we want to do is make sure that the ad copy does its job as far as calling out the right people. And if we go back to that example that I showed you before, for architectural homes from 1.2 mil across Bayside, right? Do you think someone's going to come through if they're not looking for that? No, probably not. So we want to try and exclude people in our ad copy as well. but basically just target the general radius or the general area that you're looking to take on work. Don't give it too much restriction because there is an AI and an algorithm that they have for the ad platform. You just need to put more messages out there, more hooks in the water, and you'll get more people coming back through and it'll figure out which ones are working and which ones are not. Okay. So location and age, all pretty straightforward. Cool. Fantastic. Now you guys know the secret. I'm going to be out of a job soon. So the last thing to do is create your ad. And you know what we do is we grab this primary text area, we go over to our doc, we grab the body copy, we copy and paste. Okay. This is going to give you a preview of what the ad's going to look like and everything. The button learn more is fine. Okay. Upload media. You want to upload an ad. I don't know if I've got any, stunning photos of myself on here or anything, but let's just chuck this one in there for starters. It'll show you what it's going to look like. Okay, we've got an image, we've got ad copy. You need to put a headline in there as well, which will ask for. And then the last thing you need to do is create a lead form, which is a one-off. Okay, and that's basically a couple of questions on a form that says name, address, phone number, and this stuff like that. And that's probably where people get it wrong as well. You need to ask the right balance. If you ask too many questions, they'll never fill it out. And if you only ask for a name and a phone number, then it's not enough info for you to deal with. So I've got this doc in here, which has got an overview, a walkthrough of me setting up an ad that you can watch and pause and start at the same time. It's got example ad copy, the one that I showed you before, which has worked really, really well. And then further down the page here has got the questions to put on the form. Okay, so copy and paste. It'll be in the video as well. So basically what we want to ask is name, email, phone number. Can I contact this person? Okay. Address or suburb. Are they in the right area that I service or are they on the other side of the country? And then this one here, open text details of the project. This one's really, really important because if someone says renovate, then you know that they've spent all of 1 second filling out the form and they're probably going to be a bit of a time waster. Whereas if somebody types in a paragraph around what they're trying to do and what they've tried or what they're looking for, then those people are clearly more engaged in the process and those are the ones that are going to self-filter out, okay? So a really basic way of filtering people, see what they've filled out on that form. But regardless, the quicker you get to these people and give them a call, the more money you'll make, okay? All make sense on that? Fantastic. Just one other version of this. If you go to Facebook and you go to your business page, this is not a Facebook post, just want to clarify, okay? We don't want to post it on here. You can, there's no downside to it, I guess. But what you want to do is you want to go into your ads manager and you want to create it inside here if you haven't got another way to do it. So when you go into your ads manager, oops, Facebook, it'll be a similar view, similar layout, and it's all in that video that I shared. Create a campaign. We click on leads. It'll take us to the screen. Don't show this again, right? And just go through the process of budget, location and age range, and my ad copy. Okay, all pretty straightforward. Does anyone have any questions on that? I know that's, you know, slightly techie. It's probably the least techie thing we could cover off. Oh, I guarantee though, I spoke to a guy yesterday who has watched one of my videos from sheesh, 3 or 4 years ago, and he literally copy and pasted everything that was on there. And he had, I think, something like 15 or 20 leads came through, and he had 3 or 4 really good conversations with people, and I think he might have signed one job from it. So if you take what we've done today, copy and paste it, either the example, the ones that came through on the ad copy generator, or all of the above, and click go, almost can guarantee that you should get some good inquiries coming through. And I guess that's sort of step number one. Cool. Nicole, perfect. Similar thing when we use this. Awesome. Well done. All right. Just one thing to clarify though, back to the point that I made earlier, it won't last forever. So just plan on this working for a month or two, okay? And when you start to see it not becoming effective as it was, then you just need to kill it off. And you know what you can do to be really, really clever is you leave it off for a month or two and you turn it back on again. And it'll get another scoop of people who are planning, looking, that sort of stuff as well. Okay. Cool. Maria, should we do this ourselves or should we leave it to someone else to do, i.e., pay a marketing person? Oh, great question. Great question. Should definitely pay a marketing person. No, honestly, get started. Give it a whirl yourself. It's really, really straightforward. If you need help with it, obviously that's why I exist because most people say it's too hard or whatever, and I'm here to just do it hands off. But it is literally as easy as I just showed you that first step. Copy and paste, run through those tools. The challenge that I used to have when I would show this to people a few years back is AI didn't exist. Therefore, they would always say, how do I write the ad? Okay. And now we've got the solution to that. So if you can copy and paste and click a few buttons, you should be good to go. And yeah, on average, we've seen leads come through. Could probably share a couple of examples of this. Facebook lead forms, very, very cheap. Where are we reporting? Facebook ads. These ones here are out of Perth. And if we look at just a random selection here, 59 leads through for this campaign here. They're doing SIPS homes, $10.63 a lead, which is astronomically cheap. Okay. Guarantee you most of these, there'll be a good chunk of time wasters in there, but we don't need to necessarily, work with everybody. They're selling a $600,000 package, probably closer to a million, and they've only spent $600 on getting all 59 of these people. So the goal here is not talking to everyone. It's getting more people through the door so you can just find the one or two that are a good fit and you can then work with those ones. And the same concept applies for this one here, /views. Same concept applies for Google ads. They're just a little bit more expensive, generally get a better quality of people coming through. But this is another report here. If I zoom in, Jason spent $3,600 on ads and he did an atrocious job of following anybody up. He got 122 leads come through and he signed a 650K contract at 20%. So $120,000 off of 3,600 is pretty good return. Okay, so you just need to know the math behind it to make sure that it all works. All good? All makes sense? Fantastic. Any burning questions? I think we've got covered off those.
I'm not sure if you covered it, Cam, but Arslan mentioned how many words do you recommend for an ad? Is there a limit or rule of thumb?
Yeah, good question. So the word length or of an ad is determined on the offer. Okay, so if you have an offer which is click this ad and I'll give you $1 million, you probably only need 9 words to say that, right? Whereas if you're trying to explain a different concept or what makes you different or anything like that, then generally you'd need more words. So we've actually got a page which explains feasibility studies and preliminary planning. And for most people, they understand it, but they don't understand in depth. And so the word count for that was probably 1,500 words, something like that. So it was quite a long one, but it was obviously explaining to people a new way of doing things. Hey, instead of going and working with an architect, you should work with your builder to get it built within budget and timeline. Okay. So yeah, word count depends on the offer. I mean, as a rule, go with something like 200 to 500. Something like that's gonna be totally fine.
Yeah, I mean the AI stuff is awesome. I think this will probably be for the following session next week, Cam. But I mean, guys, we're on a session before, and I just randomly did it, put in a thing onto Google, on ChatGPT, create a blog for someone that has a low lighting kitchen, for example, and recommendations and suggestions. Bam, create a whole blog about what colors, what materials to use, all that kind of stuff. I think all these things kind of help with
Mm.
writing your own ad copy and what you think people care about when they get to your website or the ads that you run as well.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And yeah, we'll touch on that next week. I guess, yeah, even better than asking ChatGPT to write a blog for you is taking a phone call that you had with someone who asked about lighting and putting your phone call into ChatGPT and saying, here's the answer that I gave someone about lighting. Can you turn this into a blog? And it'll be like the words came out of your mouth. It'll be written so well. So yeah, that context is really important in how you kind of generate everything. But does everybody have the resources? Anybody need anything else?
Yeah, can you pop the links again, mate? Because
Yeah.
there's been a few things. Maybe we'll do that at the start again, just to for the next week's session. Just get the links in there early on. But I think people kind of lose it in the. Oh no, you have got it in there. You got it in the. tools section.
Yeah, cool.
Video, where's the video going to be uploaded? Is it going to get emailed straight out, or are you going to house it somewhere in the tool section, or?
Yeah, I will wait for a few minutes for it to render. It'll probably cut out a few witty remarks and whatnot from the thing, make it a bit shorter, and then I'll upload it to Vimeo or somewhere and send everybody the link.
Awesome.
Cool. Fantastic. Nice one. Well, if anybody has anything, feel free to sing out. I think there was
Oh,
actually one further back from
mic,
Nicole.
the mic as well. What mic are you using?
Mic as in microphone?
Yeah, the little
Oh, the
thing.
wearable thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Omi. There's tons of them out there. There's another one here, which is an oval shaped one. This is called Plaud. You can just use your phone and put it in your pocket and it'll record to a certain extent, but those just make it easier to forget your phone and just push a button. So yeah, they all have pros and cons, I guess. The other one here was from Nicole asking about rebranding. About rebranding, is better to onboard new marketer early so they can influence and rebrand, or is it better to complete the rebranding process first and then transition marketing support? I guess there's a few different ways you can approach it. If you're rebranding, which we're doing for someone at the moment, you just need to go through and figure out the visuals and the styling and everything that you want it to be and the goal, like the kind of goals that you're trying to hit. Work out the brand to match that, and then your marketing can reflect it. But you know, there are brand agencies, there are ad agencies, and everything else. But yeah, like us being full service, we do all of that stuff as well, from brand ads, SEO, websites, etc. So ideally, having one person do it all is more effective because you don't have to kind of communicate with everyone. But yeah, ultimately, it shouldn't matter too much the way that you approach it. Cool, nice one. Anybody need anything? Feel free to shoot me a message. Otherwise, we'll see everybody next Wednesday, same time, same place. You should already be pre-registered. Send you out a reminder for that, and we can run through the next
Same
piece.
link, same link.
Same should be the same link. Yeah, same link
Okay,
and
cool.
everything. Perfect.
Cool.
Nice one. And I might do some spot prizes for anybody who actually does it and gets some leads coming through just to prove the concept works. Because there's nothing worse than tuning in for an informational session and then getting nothing out of it. So I would love for people to actually do the work for 5 seconds, get it up, and get it live.
Absolutely.
Right on. Awesome, guys. Anything else you
Awesome.
need, feel free to sing out. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week.
See you guys.
Catch ya.